This video is part one of a series about the doctrine of original sin. Just right off the bat, I'm going to give you my opinion about original sin so you know where I'm coming from. I believe this is a false doctrine. I believe it's harmful to people. Let's talk about what original sin is and what it isn't. A lot of people would say, wait, you don't believe that Adam sinned in the garden? There were repercussions for that? No, I do believe that. I do believe Adam sinned and there are repercussions for his sin. But that is not the doctrine of original sin. The doctrine of original sin is defined as people are born guilty of sin and born with a sinful nature or a desire to do evil from birth because of heredity. In other words, it's passed down generationally, like a genetic disease or an STD rather. You have to sin because of this sinful nature, because of this state that you were born in. You have no choice but to sin. So that's the doctrine of original sin. Again, I'm going to repeat, you're born guilty and you're born with a sinful nature, with a necessity to sin. No choice at all. So where did this doctrine come from? Well, in the 4th and 5th century, there was a bishop from northern Africa named Augustine. Augustine spoke Latin. He had a Bible version called the Vulgate. And in this Vulgate, he had, I guess, what you could call a mistranslation in Romans chapter 5, verse 12. A bad reading of Romans 5:12, specifically one or two words in there that completely changed the whole meaning of the verse. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to read Romans 5:12 and show you what it reads probably like in your Bible now, a correct translation, and what it read in Augustine's Bible at the time in the Vulgate. It starts, therefore, just as through one man sin entered the world, and death through sin, and thus death spread to all men, because all sinned. Now, instead of because, Augustine's version said in whom. So again, I'll read it again. This time I'll read it in his version. Therefore, just as through one man sin entered the world, and death through sin, thus death spread to all men, in whom all sinned. So Augustine thought, okay, in whom it's speaking about Adam. All men were in Adam, and that's why all men sin. In other words, when Adam committed his sin, all the rest of the men, all humans that ever existed in the future in that time were inside of Adam. Thus they were A, guilty, and B, born with this nature that was passed down, so to speak, or inherited from Adam, that automatically gives them the sinful nature where they can do nothing but sin. So you can see how this little bitty variant, this little bitty mistranslation, so to speak, would change the whole meaning. And as a matter of fact, it ended up creating this entire doctrine that still holds to this day, even though the translation was corrected to because in your modern versions. The doctrine still is around. One half of Christianity, Western Christianity holds, whether you're Protestant or Catholic, on paper, it holds to the doctrine of original sin, that you're born with this sinful nature. So in the next video, we're going to discuss the Bible verses that talk about Adam's sin and what the consequences really were. In addition, we're going to go over Romans 5:12 a little bit more. As a kind of a bonus, I'm going to give you an alternate translation that some people understand today, and we're going to discuss that also. So I hope to see you soon. God bless.
Heaven's mighty troops are gathered, feeble foes abroad we scatter, evil spirits rent asunder, by his countless saints unnumbered, violent sweeping indignation, crushing sinful man's creation, angels flying, Babel smiting, trodden under fiery feet, awful God.